I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. You're watching the Cryptid Podcast, and I'm your host, Daniel Hamilton. You guys, tonight we got a pretty cool guest. Now, this guest was on Mysteries Unknown a few episodes ago, not too long ago, and I reached out to him, said, hey, man, I'd love to have you on the show, and he said, sure, I'd love to come on. So that's what's going on tonight. So tonight I have Wyatt on, and before we bring Wyatt on, I just want to say, you guys, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Your likes, your comments, your subscriptions, your shares, they all help out. Without you guys, I would not be able to put this show on. I truly enjoy doing it. And yeah. And so if anybody out there has had any type of encounter and you'd like to come on to the show, please shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. And without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Wyatt to the show. Wyatt, how's it going, buddy?
Good, buddy. How are you, Daniel?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on to the show. From watching your episode on Mysteries Unknown, I knew I wanted to have you on. Some really, really cool encounters. You provided some really interesting pictures tonight, so we'll go over that. And but before we go through all that type of stuff, you kind of hinted. I was going to ask you, what made you get into this whole Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Dogman, cryptid type thing? And you kind of led on that someone very close to you had an encounter. And before we get into your personal encounters, can we hear that encounter? And who was this person that was so special to you?
It was my grandpa, Daniel. I was probably 10 or 11 years old, I reckon. Of course, I lived 10 to 12 miles out on a dirt road. So you can kind of imagine what kind of creatures could live on a bunch of forested area like that. But I just got home from school one day, and my grandpa was at the house, and I walked up, and he basically just told me, I seen a Bigfoot walk across the road. And he told me if the school bus would have been just a little faster, the school bus even would have seen the thing walk across the road. And so I guess that kind of sparked my interest from there. And especially when I got a little older, into my upper teens and 20s, I was watching all the shows, getting real into it. But
so you're from northern Arkansas, and you're telling me that around, say, 3 to 4:30 when your school bus lets you off, because you probably were on a rural route, weren't you?
Yeah, it was probably closer to 4 or 4:30. I honestly, I don't remember. It's been so long ago. But
you run from your bus stop to your house. You see your grandpa's there, and he just comes straight out and says, "You're not going to believe what I saw."
Basically, yeah.
Holy smokes! And if you would have been a couple of minutes sooner, it's a good chance that you and every other person on that school bus would have seen that thing.
Right. Now, I don't know. It probably would have been when the school bus was leaving to go back out, so it may have only been the bus driver on there. But yeah, somebody would have seen it.
That's crazy, man. So hey, I can see how that would kick off your curiosity and you pretty much your thirst for knowledge and wanting to see what these things are. You want to see one. You want to find evidence of one. So you are also telling me, your first encounter started in November of 2021. Right. And, so I definitely want to hear about that encounter. And then after that encounter, you sent me a picture. And when you and I discussed this picture, number one, it's in the snow. 2, your dad sent it to you because he knows you're into this. I'm not gonna hint at the location of where your dad found this because I find it really cool where he found this print. So when we get to that part, I'll show that picture. But hey, let's get into your encounters. Let's hear your encounters.
Sounds good, buddy. I appreciate it. Well, my first encounter, it occurred in the Ozark National Forest here in Arkansas. It occurred in an area called Boxley, Arkansas. That's it occurred about 12 miles from there, near an area we call Cave Mountain. I was just deer hunting in November 2021. I was I I got up to this place called the Fire Tower, and I always hunted down below this. But the weird part about my first encounter is these guys, they drove up there too, and they got out and they were asking about seeing their buddy, and I told them no, I hadn't seen him. I guess he had walked off from camp that day, and they hadn't seen him since then. They didn't ask me to help him look for him or anything like that. So I walked down, and I don't believe anything ever occurred from that because there was no missing persons and reports filed. And I was there the next day. If something would have happened, the game wardens would have been all over the place. So I don't believe anything ever happened. But I was walking down to where I usually hunt down there below that fire tower, and I start hearing what I can only describe as wood knocks. Like I said, anything I say, I'm not completely 100% saying it's Bigfoot at all, but it sounded like what you describe as wood knocks. And this probably went on for 10 to 15 minutes. And I've always believed in Bigfoot, but I, you never really expect to have an encounter because, that's like rare. And I was like, no way. And so I was sitting there. I stayed in the wood. I heard the, excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied. I hear the wood knocks, and I yell out, "Is anybody out there?" Because if that guy was actually lost, maybe he's knocking to get people's attention. And there was nobody answered at all. So I went back and I just sat down and started deer hunting. And my buddy, he comes up quite a while later, kind of out of the same area I was hearing all this. And he sits down beside me, and we sitting there, and I told him what happened. He's like, "Well, do you think it was a woodpecker?" I'm like, "Well, I've heard woodpecker, and I don't believe this was any woodpecker." So that was basically my first encounter. And Daniel, if you want to bring up that picture from the snow, my dad sent this to me in I believe it was February of 2022. We'd had a snowstorm down here where we live. This track is by a dumpster in town, and like I said, not saying it's 100% a Bigfoot track, but that's what it looks like to me. And I've had other people look at it and say that's what they think it is as well. Yeah, this was right outside a dumpster in town. I just thought it was. He knows I'm a believer, and he sent that to me, and that's pretty cool.
So let me ask you this: so when did he tell you what kind of type of day it was when he sent that to you?
No, it looks like it may be afternoon. That's what I was guessing.
Okay, perfect. So what happened next? What was your next encounter?
Okay, well, we're gonna stay in Arkansas. We've got property over in Vendor, Arkansas. I live in Harrison, but we have property in Vendor, and this would have happened around March or April of 2022. We were over at our property. We were morel mushroom hunting one day. It was me, my wife, my daughter, and her parents. So we're just out there hunting mushrooms, and all of a sudden I hear what I can only describe as, it sounded like a baby crying in the woods. And I was talking to my wife, and of course I've watched a lot of videos and stuff and heard that, well, the Bigfoot sometimes uses the baby crying to lure women and children out into the woods. And there are other properties around our place that I guess somebody could have had a baby outside and it was crying. But I just thought it was weird that day because my wife and my little girl were with me. And I just found that very odd. And it was kind of creepy. Uh, that was my next experience. Now in the next one, it occurred at the same property in November of 2022, so it would have been the same year. I was deer hunting on our property, and I was sitting down in a little valley. I sat down there just sat down there waiting for a deer to walk by. All of a sudden, I heard this. It sounded like a growl. Now it wasn't real loud, but whatever it was, it sounded like it meant business. I'm like, okay. Well, I got it from there, and I walked to the completely opposite side of the property, and I was walking down in the woods, and I heard it growl again, and I'm like, there was either two of something or something was following me. So I backed out of the woods there with my 7 mag facing the woods, ready to rock and roll if I needed to. So I was like, I was getting out of there. I didn't leave. I don't believe I left like right after that, but I was not sitting down as far in the woods as I was. After the second growl, something dropped out of a tree. Now I'm assuming it was probably a squirrel, but I've heard that they can do the spider crawl or something. But I'm pretty sure it was a squirrel that dropped out of the tree, but I don't know. But whatever growled at me, it meant business. It didn't want me there anymore.
Okay, so when you said okay, the impact of it hitting the ground, did it sound like a squirrel, like a little 1 or 2 pound squirrel?
That's the reason why I think it was a squirrel, because it didn't sound real heavy, and I think it was just the coincidence of the growl and then something hitting the ground that it kind of spooked me a little bit. So I'm pretty sure it was a squirrel, but not 100%.
Okay. All right. So after that happens, you back out. You got your boomstick, the business end of your boomstick, pointing as you're backing out. What happened after that?
I sat there for a while longer, but like I said, I wasn't sitting down in the woods near as far. After that, after a while later, I just left. Nothing else happened after that.
You didn't hear any movement, like something was leaving, or
no.
Okay.
That's the thing about most of my experiences. You can, and besides this one, I've always been able to hear something, and it's real close, but you can't ever see anything, and that's what gets me. But nothing else happened after the growl.
So after that one, what happened after that encounter? What was your next one?
All right. Well, I feel bad because I forgot to tell this one on Josh's show, but my next experience happened where my first one did, pretty close.
I have an exclusive.
Yes, sir. All right. So I'm back out on the Ozark National Forest, and every year we have what we call squirrel camp, and it's just where a bunch of us guys get together and we squirrel hunt for one weekend out of the year. We were sitting there, and we'd all gone to bed, and we were sleeping in this little camper they modified with bunk beds, so a bunch of us could sleep in it. And laying there, and it's the middle of the night, and my buddy's dad had brought his squirrel dog out there, and he'd left it loose around the camp. And I hear it start barking, and it goes from one side of the campground to all the way around to the other side. And of course, it's got my curiosity piqued a little bit. So I'm laying there, and the dog stops barking, and I'm laying there, and I can hear the door handle of the camper starts jiggling. I'm thinking, what the heck? It just jiggled the handle for just a little bit, and then it was done. So that freaked me out pretty good. I mean, I had my 10 millimeter just across on the little table right by the door, but I would have had to get up to get it and get real close to the door to get it. So I just laid there. Nothing else happened after that. But yeah, something jiggled the handle of the door, and my opinion, something with hands would have had to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So what happened to the dog?
But the dog was fine. It
Okay.
was just alerting, I guess, to something's presence.
And it probably went up underneath the camper if it could.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what it did, but I know it didn't. It was fine though.
And then what
Yep.
happened after? What was the next encounter you had after that one? That one's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
Now, was it just like a little turn, or was it like a jiggle, 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 jiggle,
It
jiggle?
was kind of
jiggle?
like a jig. It's been a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, about a year and a half. Yeah, you could tell the door handle was moving.
No.
And the bad part about it, the bad part about it is that camper didn't have a lock on it.
Oh
So
my goodness!
If it wanted to get in there and get a piece, it would have got a piece.
Oh, good night. No, thank you.
Now, my next encounter, this is going to start happening on Table Rock Lake. All the next ones, and I've got several. If you want me to go over all of them,
Sure.
uh,
Let's show this picture. Let's show this picture. I find this picture, kind of interesting. You and I talked about this one. It could be either or.
right?
I tend to believe that it might be fellas like you and me, maybe setting something up.
Right.
But then you mentioned something about it, that could have come along maybe later. But again, there's nothing out of the realm of probability when you're dealing with a creature like Sasquatch.
Right. Okay, that would have been the second time me and my buddy Richard, so how me and him I work with him, and we got to talking, and he's like, yeah, you need to come out on the lake with me and see if we can, hear anything like that. This was our second time out, and we were just trolling along the bank of this cove, and I catch something out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And there's something over here, I think. So we shine the light over there, and sure enough, there was a structure. I mean, basically, it looks like a teepee without the covering over it.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my buddy D.A. Roberts. He has a podcast called D.A. Ex Machina. He's a real good guy. He's an author, and I got to talking with him. We discussed it could possibly be man-made because, of course, there was those big bricks laying on the ground, and there was some like old rope intertwined in it. But the weird part about that picture or that structure was, and I don't remember seeing this. My buddy Richard, he said there was a stick, and you can kind of see it in the background of that structure. It's the one that's going horizontal, and you can see it in the middle back there. He said that stick was perfectly balanced on another stick, and for it to be there for any amount of time, that, in my opinion, that's kind of weird.
Now, let me ask you about Table Rock Lake. Let me ask you about that. So this cove that you guys went to, is it a known area for people to hang out, have bonfires on the beach, or fishing, camping, or is it pretty much like a secluded area where you don't think a lot of activity is there?
To be honest, Daniel, I'm not 100% sure. It very well could have been a person out there that built that structure.
But it's out of the ordinary. Your cruise along.
You wouldn't expect to see it sitting over there on the side of the lake, especially in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
But there was also what looked to be like an impression in the ground, and I took a picture of that, but it didn't turn out real well. And it didn't have much definition, but it looked like something heavy had made an impression in the ground.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of little clams or whatever the little things in the shell are that something had been eating a bunch of those right there in front of the structure. Okay. But the weird part about it is when we were leaving, we were shining the light, and the spotlight just goes dead. And we get
Really?
to a different part of the lake, and just a little bit later, and the spotlight comes right back on. So
Okay.
I've heard that Bigfoot can drain batteries and stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, the light came back on later.
No, something can definitely, again, I've heard the same stories. Bigfoot has the ability to do this or do that, but I've also heard that, paranormal, um,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, spirits or, whatever you want to call them, they have the ability to find an energy source and they will drain the power if they want to manifest or if they want to do something in this realm that we live in. So,
Right.
you never know, especially, it's just, there's so many different things that could go on, could happen, events that follow through when you're dealing with, Sasquatch. Now, let me ask you this. Do you and your friend Richard, his name's Richard, right?
Correct.
Do you two, or just you, or just him, do you guys normally go out in areas like this specifically looking for signs of Bigfoot?
Well, we do a little fishing too, but
Okay.
I'm not a very good fisherman, so I do a little fishing. But my main thing is to listen and look for Bigfoot stuff. And
Right.
he's had his own personal experiences without me there too, of weird stuff happening on the lake.
Now,
But yeah,
sorry, that I don't understand why, but Sasquatch for some reason really like to mess with fishermen.
I
Like
agree.
that's something they just love to do. Every story that I've heard where it involves, well, I was down on this river, or I was fly fishing in this stream, or I was canoeing down this waterway, or kayaking in this lake, and this great big rock or this giant limb, or come sailing from the shore, and
Right.
it was the size of 3 basketballs, and you're like, what? So you said you found this on your second time there. Did you find anything like the first time you went there?
Okay. The first time it happened in about September of 2023. Richard and I, we were half fishing, half looking for Bigfoot. Uh, we're trolling along there, and we've got the spotlight out looking, and we see something white, just like it's like a circle, and we're shining the spotlight on it, and it just vanishes. And like 5 minutes or less later than that, we hear a wood knock, excuse me. And this is like the crispest wood knock you've ever heard in your life. It sounded like two louisville sluggers just being banged together. Uh, we didn't end up seeing some eye shine too, but seeing the white thing just disappear and then the wood knock, that was basically the first experience.
Okay, let me ask you about that white thing. Would you say it was like an orb or a light, or
Honestly, I can't tell you what it was. I wouldn't say it was an orb, but I don't know what it was because I couldn't see everything else around it. I could just focus on that one area.
okay, now was it emitting its own light, or did you guys light it up with like a flashlight?
We lit it up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Because I
and
was
then
saying I was trying to correlate something happening in your first encounter, and then boom, your flashlight gets drained in your second encounter. I'm like,
right.
oh, there you go. But okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
You're fine, buddy. You're fine. Uh, yeah, a lot of these encounters, I'm going to tell you, they happen on Table Rock Lake. So I'm going to go to the third one.
Okay.
Actually, no, the third one is a different one. We were back in Arkansas. This is an area in Flippin, Arkansas. We call it Three Fields. It's Corps of Engineer land. We were just deer hunting, and we were walking through there, and I smell what smells like chicken poop. And when we walked back by the area later on, it smelled like wet dog. And all the stories I've heard and everything like that, they say Bigfoot smells like wet dog. I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot at all, but we smelled something that smelled like wet dog. In this area, Richard, previous in the past, he had also heard wood knocks at a different time. So yeah, I've smelled what I believe could have possibly been a Bigfoot at that area. Now, March of 2024, we're back out on Table Rock Lake. We could hear something walking that sounded like it was on two feet. We had quite a bit of eye shine though as well, and we caught some of that on IR. Now, when we were leaving, we could hear something on both sides of us, and Richard makes a really light whoop, whoop, kind of like what a baby one would sound like. I would assume. And as soon as he did that, just right after, something bust the brush off to our left. We're coming out on the boat. He's on the right, and I'm on the left. Something bust the brush. I mean, I should have been able to look right over there and see whatever it was, but there was nothing there. So I don't know what bust the brush, but it was right. I wouldn't say it was right beside us, but it wasn't very far off. I should have been able to turn and just see whatever it was standing there running up the hill. Couldn't see anything. It was that night we got to the lake. When we got to the boat ramp, it was eerily quiet. It was eerily quiet till we got back into that cove. And if I remember right, we ended up hearing a pack of coyotes go off. But that whole evening, it was pretty quiet. Not like it should be. In other words.
So you heard like when you're saying eerily quiet, there was a stillness in the air. Like there was no crickets, no frogs, no other bugs, no night birds and critters. It was just still.
When we got to the lake, I mean, there could have been some faint insect sounds, but it wasn't anything like it should be in spring.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was
Yep.
just when you get to the lake and getting on the boat, you should be able to hear all sorts of stuff. And when we were putting the boat in the ramp, it was just it was quiet. It was more quiet than it should have been. Let's put it that way. Now the next time we went out, it was the first time or the only time I've ever cleared leather with my pistol. We're back out on Table Rock Lake. It's on just over the Arkansas-Missouri border. We were on the Missouri side. Like I said, we do fish on these outings sometimes, but my main goal is to look for Bigfoot activity. This time we had almost everything happen but a visual. We'd heard a knock, and we had trolled up next to this highline right away. And I was shining the light up in this highline right away, and the light just dies. It went graveyard dead. And this is the part that really sent the chills down my spine. About 5 minutes later, we hear this whistle. Now, this whistle was louder than any human being could make, in my opinion. And as it went up, it changed octaves as it went up. And like I said, that sent chills down my spine. The weird part about it was 5 minutes later or so, a pack of coyotes. It sounds like they're right behind the boat. You should be able to turn around with the light and see something. Good. And we couldn't see anything. We turned around, there was nothing there. And you're going to call me crazy, but I believe whatever whistled attracted those coyotes. I don't know if it was like to come check us out or, if they were hunting us or something. I just thought that was weird.
Well, I'm going to tell you, on the last encounter I had in 92, I heard two distinctive whistles, like super loud whistles.
Yeah.
And my brother, he was getting ready to relieve himself on a tree. And that's when the whistle happened, like almost immediately. And it was a short but very loud whistle. Like you said, louder than any human being that I've ever heard that could whistle. And I turned to ask him if he heard that whistle, and he goes, "Oh, what are you doing? You checking me out?" It's my baby brother. We're just
Right.
we're clowning each other, and I'm like, "No, did you hear that whistle?" And he's like, "Ah, yeah, I heard you whistle, and that wasn't me." And then we went back on the path we were walking on, or the trail that he was trailblazing for us,
Correct.
and I had to go to the bathroom myself, and just as I get ready to get started, that same whistle hit again. And my brother just grabbed me and he pulled me out of the way. And when I asked him, was getting ready to ask him, "What are you doing?" That's when a limb or a branch smashed into the tree right next to where I was. Yeah. And he's like,
Give me goosebumps.
he, he's like, "We gotta go."
Oh yeah.
So, and I'll tell you that story off of a thing. So after you heard that super loud whistle and you believe, you hear these coyotes, they should have been right behind you, and you turn around and you're lighting the area up. Did you hear anything after that? Like immediately after? Because if anybody who's ever encountered a pack of coyotes or heard a pack of coyotes, it sounds like there's 100 of them because they all just get the yipping and yapping and haul, and sometimes it's 4 or 5, sometimes it's 15, 20.
Right.
You're gonna hear them other than they're yipping and yapping. And you said you heard nothing and saw nothing?
We could hear the coyotes, but we couldn't see anything. I mean, you should be able to see it. And I can't remember what we were lighting it up with. It may have not been very bright, but we couldn't see anything over there. We could hear them. Yeah, we could hear them going off, but there was nothing there. And that's what upsets me, is because I've had so many encounters where I should have been able to just look and see, but nothing's there.
Yeah.
After that, though, we were trolling out, and off to our right side, we hear something break a tree, and you know what a tree sounds like when it breaks.
Oh yeah.
And it just
Yep.
And not too long after that, something threw what we believe was a big rock right behind the boat. And Richard said he's fished out there for years, and he said that wasn't a rock, that wasn't a fish that hit the water. And that's when I cleared leather with my pistol.
Yeah.
I drew it out of instinct. I didn't have my finger on the trigger or anything, but I was ready to do some business if I needed to, because it was that close. That would scare me.
Now, let me ask you this: I'm sure you as a kid, hell, I'm 53 years old, and if I'm walking along a pond or a lake and I find a rock, I'm picking the rock up and I'm tossing it in the water. You hear that blunk when it hits, especially if it's a bigger rock and the water is not that deep. You hear that, like that blunk, that noise, that specific noise. Did you guys hear that when that rock hit the water?
All it sounded like was something busted the water.
Really?
It was. I didn't hear the clunk.
Yeah.
But it sounded like an explosion on the top of the water.
Really?
So
okay.
So it was something big. But I'm not going to lie. The thought crossed my mind that one could have jumped in the water, and that kind of scared me even worse. But
so you're saying it was like that big, like something huge?
No, that was just what was going through my mind. I'm pretty sure it was just it was a big rock.
Your mind started playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So, like I said, that's the only time I've ever cleared leather with my pistol. But come June of 2024, we're back out on Table Rock Lake. This was going to be on the Arkansas side. So we're trolling back into this cove, and I don't know. I just found this weird. When we were trolling back in there, it was about 60-something degrees that night, but my hands they started getting cold all of a sudden, and they stayed cold for a while, and that was just weird to me. They shouldn't have been cold. But we get back into this cove, and we hear something just start busting the brush. I mean, this whatever's doing it is loud. And I'm trying to get this flashlight on, or this big spotlight on Richard's, so we can light it up. He's like, "Get that dang light on." I'm like, I'm trying. And I'm finally get it on and shining it in the brush, and it's still making the noise, but there's nothing there. And you can't see it. You can't see anything. It, as loud as that was, I should have been able to look right at whatever it was and see whatever it was.
Did you see like the brush moving around, or
I don't remember the brush moving at all, but something was moving the brush somewhere because it had to have been. Because it sounded like trees just, going crazy.
right?
Shine the light, there's nothing over there. And so after that, I had to sit down. It was probably like it may have been an adrenaline dump or something. But when I sat down, I start hearing something walk up on the other side of the boat, and I tell Richard that, and Richard don't scare very easily, and so he's like, "Well, we need to get out of here." So we left. We turned around and started going out, and we could hear something walking in the woods, very behind us. So yeah, that's the frustrating part. I should be able to see whatever it is, and I've heard theories of them being able to, like their hair, they have clear hair shafts, and maybe they can absorb the light around them or whatever. But
Yeah, you definitely get frustrated, man, when every other one of your senses are just on high alert. You
right.
feel it, you smell it, you hear it. You can almost taste it when you get that smell.
Yeah.
But the one thing that should never fail you is failing you.
Yeah.
And you're using a spotlight. I'm sure it lights up everything that it's hitting.
Oh, it was everything was lit up.
And man, that is crazy. And what happened after that?
We had started leaving. We'd trolling out. And the bad part about us, we get back in these coves. If you want to get out of there in a hurry, there's no way, because you've got to use a trolling motor. Because there's all sorts of stuff, trees and stuff in the water, and you hit a stump with a motor going full blast, you're going to tear something up. So you got to go slow.
That's crazy. I mean,
so if something wanted to get you, it was going to get you.
Oh yeah, for sure. So after that night happened, when was your next one? What happened?
Now this is the pretty good one. This is where we went to the campground, to the abandoned campground.
Okay. No, wait a minute. Abandoned campground. Is this an area
at least it's a shut down campground.
How long has it been shut down, do you reckon?
30, 40 years probably.
Is this an area where you're supposed to be?
I know you're not supposed to camp there, and we didn't really know if we were supposed to be there or not. We did find out later on that you can get in there during the day at least. They've got a gate. I'm not 100% sure if they end up locking it at night, but at this point we didn't really know that. So
how'd you get in there?
We went in by boat. I mean, we had we'd heard that you could get in there by land maybe, but we'd heard that we didn't know if they locked it at night. So, and we knew you couldn't camp there, so we didn't know if we should be there. So,
man, you're doing some
we decided to go
type stuff.
We decided to go in by boat. So, my buddy D.A. Roberts, I was telling you about, we decided to go in there. Me and Richard, we brought the boat, and D.A. brought some of his friends. It had been D.A., Robbie. There were several people there. His son Noah, Steve. Well, you can edit this, right?
I can, but it takes me a little longer to get it. So we'll stop naming names.
Okay.
So you had quite a crew.
Yeah, we had I think 7 on the ground, and then Richard was on the boat.
Okay.
But so we get into this campground. DA and his co-host and his son, they were the first boots on the ground. And they said that no sooner than they got here, got on the boat, or not on the boat, excuse me, got on the campground, that they started hearing stuff in the woods. I came in a boatload or two behind VA. So anyway, we're walking along these old roads and stuff. And there's like the picnic tables are busted into pieces. We're talking thick picnic tables,
Right.
broken by something. And it would took something big to break these picnic tables. But anyway, me and DA's co-host Robbie, we're walking along. We're in the back of the pack, and we don't have our headlamps on at this time. But he catches something out of the corner of his eye, and he's like, "Wait a minute, Wyatt!" And we turn our lights on, and there's this part of a deer carcass hanging in this tree. It's draped over it. Yeah, right there. It was fresh enough that part of the skin was still red, and underneath it, there was some blood droplets and a bunch of hair right underneath that. I mean, we didn't 100% know what it was, but we took it as kind of like a territorial marker, like maybe something didn't want us there. So we do that, and we go just a little ways past that, and we look off to our right, and there's this fish head in a crook of a little tree, and it looked like it had been torn off and just placed in the crook of this tree. And again, we were taking this as a territorial marker, like something didn't want us there. When we had found the deer carcass, I had texted Richard, "Hey, don't get too far away in that boat because there's something here." And so we decided to exfil. We were going to leave, and we met Richard at this boat ramp. And we were in a bass boat, and that you can't carry a whole lot of people on a bass boat, so we were having to take loads out at a time. And it got down to being DA, his son, and his co-host, or one of his co-hosts. And they said by the time that Richard got back to the boat ramp to get them, they were backed into the water with their pistols drawn, because whatever was on the island or the peninsula was getting closer and closer. Before Richard picked any of us up, he was seeing eye shine in the trees. But I guess when they asked Richard, "Hey, is there any way that we can get all three of us out on this trip?" Richard's like, "Yeah, it'll be fine, but we'll have to go a little slower." And I guess when they lit up the area behind them, the eye shine, there was all sorts of eye shine in the trees. So whatever's there was getting closer. And the reason I mentioned about them asking if they could get three people out was because, if we'd have left one person on that island, in my heart of hearts, I believe they can probably get a little violent, whatever it was. If we'd have left one person on that there on the peninsula, we'd have probably heard gunshots from that area, and when we got back, there would have been nobody there.
That's crazy. So you also sent some other pictures that were from that night, and
Right.
So you gotten off by this boat ramp, and you guys, you were there for however long you were. You encountered,
Right.
Experienced the things that you experienced. You found the things you found. And when you're coming back, you noticed this.
Right. Now this was okay. We took DA and we dropped them off where we picked them up. Me and Richard went back out on the lake for a little while. He fished a little bit, and when we got back to the boat ramp, we found this. I'm like, "Does this look like a footprint to you?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I started taking pictures, and I ended up sending them to DA. And yeah, that's my wallet sitting beside it. You can see the toe impressions towards the front of the track. Yeah, this was at the boat ramp when we got back to the boat ramp. It wasn't there when we left. So something had walked down there after we had left while we were gone, it made the tracks, and then we came back and found them. And that's my credit card. That's my credit card stuff beside that one.
Now, with this picture, it looks like the top of the picture looks like that's water. So it looks like you're down near a beach area. It looks like, or maybe some mud or something.
Yeah, that's where we put the boat in at.
As you're moving down, there's an obvious footprint, and that looks like it's someone from your party. Then,
I honestly don't know who made that track.
And then the center, you see your credit card, but then off to the right of your credit card, you can see a definite heel impression. This looks like this is also a left foot.
Right.
And it looks like it had stepped down on, because you could see where part of that other footprint there, it's like caved in, where something had stepped down on top of that. So this tells me that something came in behind you guys after you guys all landed and started going more inland on this peninsula.
Right.
Wow. That's
now that was the first time we ever found a track at that. There was another time that we came back, we found another kind of track, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit.
okay.
So I guess the next time, I guess this is going to be when I had my Dogman encounter.
Okay, let's definitely let's hear this.
Okay, this was the month after we went into Combs Ferry. That was the campground that we went to. So we're back out on Table Rock on the Missouri side. We got back into one of our regular coves, and we started hearing what sounded like howls. It didn't quite, in my opinion, it wasn't quite an owl, because I've heard Tim Coombo Baker say that if they don't have the trill on the end, that he don't think they're owl calls. They're something else. I've got this on video. I didn't send it to you, but so anyway, I didn't think these were owl calls. But we go back out. We're coming back out. We go back into this other cove. Then this is the same cove where we found the structure. So this would actually been on the same side of the lake as the structure. So what happens is we get there, and we're shining the lights up there, and I see like 4 or 5 sets of eyes shine. And what was bothering me is they were laying on the ground, and this bothered me for a while after this experience. Until I heard Harley that you had on your podcast. I heard about his Dogman encounter where he turned around and it was just laying on the ground.
Yep.
So that got me to thinking, well, maybe that's what this was. They were laying on the ground. But there was one set of eye shine that wasn't laying on the ground. It was up higher. Richard said he could see it peeking out behind the trees. My light had went dead. My headlamp had went dead at some point. So he was watching it do that. And finally, the way the light hit it, and I caught the silhouette of something. And whatever it was, it had a snout like a dog.
Really?
Yeah.
About how tall?
Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I didn't go back out there to check.
Okay, was it standing up?
I believe it was standing up. Yeah, because Richard said it was darting its head out back and forth behind the tree.
So we're looking at probably 5 to maybe 7 feet tall. I mean, that's a big range, but it's definitely not something on 4 legs.
Right.
As you can see, a coyote or a wolf or a bigger dog or a smaller dog, you can tell when it's down lower.
Right.
One question: what color was the eye shine?
I believe it was kind of like a yellowish type eye shine.
Okay.
If I remember right. But what got me is when I looked and it had the snout of a dog. When I looked into the eyes of whatever it was, which probably wasn't a good idea. When I looked into the eyes, I told Richard that's not a Bigfoot. Like I felt an evil presence in those eyes. So whatever it was evil, and I'll stand by that. Like I said on Josh's podcast all day long. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't good.
Right. That's
That probably went on for 10, 15 minutes. We were there, and what got me was all the other eye shine was just laying flat on the ground.
same color.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't understand why us rednecks, us hillbillies, I don't. I'm guilty of this as well. I don't understand for the life of me why, when we see something that gives us the heebie-jeebies, we still got to hang around for a little bit, kind of figure out what's going on. You
Right.
know, I'm telling you, I can sit here all day long and tell you, I would have got out of there. I see something like that. Let's turn the
I
boat
was telling
around.
I was telling Richard we needed to go. But
I don't know. You know what it is? You're probably strapped.
no, I was strapped for bear.
And you're giving yourself a false sense of security, which that's what one does. I'll tell you right now, being in the military, bro, I humped the M60 machine gun, 23
Right.
pounds of menace, and I thought I was invincible with that thing.
No, thank you for your service, by the way.
Man, I loved every second of it, man, and I'd do it all over again. But then I realized what the life expectancy it was of a 60 gunner, less than a minute.
Yeah.
If you open up, you are the anchor of a line, and you're the biggest boy on the battlefield, and they're looking to take you out real quick because you are
Oh,
going to lay waste if you get a chance to. But man, still, Richard wanted to hang around a little bit longer. So after you see this for about 10, 15 minutes, I assume you guys left that area, correct?
Oh yeah, we left.
And then what did you do after that? Like, what was your next encounter? Or
Well, whenever I'll try to make this as short and sweet as I can. When we were going back to the boat ramp, I was texting DA. I was asking him what color Dogman eye shine was and stuff like this, and I told him about it. He's like, "Dude, be careful; those things will follow you home." And
yeah,
every time I go out, I'm praying. Like Josh says, stay prayed up. But I'm praying, don't let anything follow us home, our families, keep us safe, and all that kind of stuff. He's like, "Yeah, be careful; they'll follow you home." I'm like, "Well, will they follow you like 30 miles home?"
yeah.
He's like, "Don't be surprised, especially if you shoot at one." I'm like, well, I didn't shoot at anything.
There's an episode that on Josh's channel where there's a guy. This is one of the most chilling Dogman encounters that I've personally heard. This guy, when he was 12 years old, was out hunting. He had a little 410 single action shotgun, or it might have been a 20 gauge, but he's shooting. He's out hunting, and he sees a fox. And as he brings his shotgun up, he hears in his head, "Don't," and then he shoots, and then he hears, "Shoot me."
Right.
So what he's looking at is telling him, "Don't shoot me." He hears it. And he's having a conversation with this thing now. He's like, "Why'd you shoot me?" He goes, "Well, you scared me." He goes, "I was just trying to have some fun." And this thing wound up following him for years and would communicate with him, and it would show himself to him. And he'd be like, "When I get the okay," this is the Dogman. He believes it's a Dogman. The Dogman told him in no certain terms, "When I am given the okay, I'm going to kill you first." So be careful, man. Like, for real. Tell your buddy Richard, y'all need to, seriously. And the power of prayer will help you.
Oh, I believe in prayer. I try to pray every time we go out.
Yeah.
Even when we're just trolling around in my head and stuff, I'm praying. I don't want to get got.
Right. So DB tells you, sure I got that. Yeah, DA or DB?
DA.
DA. So DA tells you, "Hey, be careful, man. These things will follow you home." After he tells you that, what happens after that?
We get back to the boat ramp, and this was the second time we found what looked to be tracks. I sent these to you. I don't know if you have them pulled up or not, but it's a more of a skinny track.
Uh-huh.
Now, me and Richard, we were on DA's show, and his co-host said, "Well, I would put that as more of being a type of a Dogman track because it had the skinny, the narrow,
Yep.
the hill, and
I
it
didn't
kind of
load those ones up. I should have, but I thought they were the same ones and the same thing.
No,
So,
no,
okay.
that's my fault. I should have told you. But yeah, and it kind of flares at the end just a little bit. And he's like, "Yeah, I would put that as being more of a Dogman type track." The funny thing is, we went and had our experiences on Combs Ferry, and we've come back and found the track there. Then we have that Dogman. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm not 100% saying it was a Dogman. Whatever it was evil. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
But we find these tracks that somebody would attribute to a Dogman, more closely to a Dogman anyway, when we got back from having that experience. This was at the same exact boat ramp as the other one. I just found that odd.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this, man. This campground that you guys go to, I would assume other people go there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they go and walk around and stuff like that. Yeah.
Have you heard of any other incidences happening with other people? Do you know if you have missing people in that area?
See, there's a strange thing about some of the campgrounds down around this area. There's another one called Joe Bald. They shut it down years ago. DA and his buddies, they've had some experiences there. He'd be a good one to get on your show sometime.
Just about to ask you. I need to get a hold of, Mr. DA Roberts.
Richard would be good to come on too, because he could back up some of the stuff I've said. Plus, he's had his own experiences.
Make it happen.
I can do it. But yeah.
So let me ask you.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Let me ask you this, man. It's through the years. I mean, you've been having experiences for like the last 5, maybe 6 years. What do you do with these things? You have a lot of physical evidence. You have a lot of sightings, not like direct actual. You see a Bigfoot, but you see something in the woods. You hear something in the brush. You hear tree break. You hear, tree knocks. What do you think you're dealing with? Like, do you ever just sit down after something happens where it kind of gets you really like excited but terrified at the same point? Do you ever sit and ask yourself, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I dealing with here?
Are you asking what do I think it is?
Yeah.
Basically. Like I told Josh, that's a good question. I'm going to be honest. I 100%. I don't know. Like everybody says, there's no experts in the field. My personal opinion, I want to say they're flesh and blood, but like Josh says, there's a possibility they could have some sort of a supernatural aspect to them, maybe, because the things I should have been able to see, I'm not seeing. I mean, it should be right there in front of me, and like I said, people have talked about the clear hair shafts. Maybe they're just absorbing the light around them whenever I'm shining the light on them, and that could be it. It could just be a physical trait that they have that they can do that. So maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think mainly they're flesh and blood with maybe some supernatural aspects to them.
Since I've been doing, a co-host on Josh's show, and since I've been doing my own show, listening to all the stories of other podcasts that I listen to, audio that people send me, video that people send me, emails that people send me, reports that I've read on the BFRO site and other sites that track these, I'm not. I used to be 100% flesh and blood. That's it. That's all they are. There's nothing supernatural about them. There's nothing. No. Probably within the last 5 months, maybe. I'm more open-minded now to the ability of them cloaking, the ability of them maybe passing through a portal, maybe bending I don't know, bending light. I don't know.
Right.
I've heard too many weird things, and they're coming from people that I truly trust.
Right.
So again, it's your guess is as good as mine, brother.
Honestly, I wish I did, but I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah. So let me ask you, do you have anything out there, just a word of advice or suggestion to anybody out there that wants to go out squatching, wants to go out investigate? What I mean, you've been doing it for a few years now. Words of advice.
Well, the investigating I haven't been doing that long, putting myself out there. The other stuff, it kind of just happened naturally. Yeah, have an open mind. I mean, if you're wanting to see something or hear something, have an open mind when you go out there. Uh, in my opinion, if you're going to go out there, you need to have some sort of protection, whether it be a firearm, a knife, or a big stick. Have something to defend yourself. I mean, it may not work, but it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just keep an open mind. And there's some trolls out there that like to make fun of people that like us that believe in this kind of stuff. Like I told Josh, come out with me. Come see for yourself. Maybe you'll get it. Maybe you'll get your mind changed.
Yep. 100%, man. I totally agree with you on that. And after we wrap this up in a couple minutes, stay in the lobby and I'll tell you why I do not go off the beaten path anymore. I don't. Just like Wyatt said, and tons of other guests have said on other podcasts and on my podcast, you go out, make sure you have someone with you guys. Let somebody know where you're going.
Yep.
Know and trust the person you're going out with. Don't just on a willy-nilly, just someone you don't even know or you barely know, say, hey, why don't you come out with us? Know the person.
Right.
Well, make sure someone knows you. So other than that, do you have any other words of wisdom to our listeners and our viewers?
No, I do have one more encounter. If I can tell it real quick, it'll be quick.
Let's hear it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, this is going to be my partial sighting, in my opinion.
Okay.
Richard and I, I trust Richard because I've known him for quite a while. He's a good guy, but we decided to go. This would have been, I think, would have been August of 2024. We decided to go out and put up some deer stands before the season started. We were down around Flippin, Arkansas. We were back at that spot called Three Fields where I told you we smelled the wet dog.
Yep.
So anyway, we're walking back and we get to the back of this third field, and we get back in there, and we decided, well, there's not really a good place to put a stand here, and so we're walking back out, and I hear something start busting the brush off to my right, and I look over there, and the brush is so thick, Daniel, that you couldn't hardly see anything through it. And there was like this little narrow opening, and I seen something. It looked like it was black, and I'm not claiming this is Bigfoot at all. But whatever it was, I guess it could have been on four legs, but I don't believe so because this thing walked off so fluidly. It went a narrow crack that I could see it through. I just watched it walk off like this. It's almost like it would have had to have been on two legs. But like I said, it was just a narrow gap in the trees that I could see something walking through, and it was black. And it was like it just very fluidly just walked out of there.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say you're looking at that little gap, and all of a sudden you see a face poke out that. No.
I probably would have freaked out then.
Game over. Time to go home. So, Man, it was a pleasure having you on the show tonight. I've been looking forward to it all week, and again, you have an open invitation to come back on the show. Tell Da and Richard they both, if you can get me their information, they'll be hearing from me. See if they'd like to come on the show. I'd definitely like to talk to them as well. And you represented your home state really well, man, Arkansas. And there's a lot of stuff coming out of Arkansas. It just seems like every day I'm hearing something coming out of Arkansas, which is fantastic. I know a lot of, East Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, the LBL, that's ramping up pretty big too. Oklahoma's getting pretty crazy. Ohio's getting pretty crazy. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. My home state, Washington. So anybody from Washington State listening to this, if you guys have had any encounters, hit me up. Come on now. We're supposed to be leading the United States, if not the world, in Bigfoot encounters, Bigfoot sightings, smelling a wet dog, whatever. Come on now. Let's represent Washington State. Come on. That's the home of Bigfoot. Come on now.
Go get it, guys.
So, hey, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to you. Just stay in the lobby after we sign off here. And again, you have an open invitation, my friend.
I've got some other stuff to tell you, but I just want to wait. I want to wait a little bit on that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah. We'll when you can divulge that information, because you kind of gave me tiny little hints of what we're looking at here. Yeah, definitely come back for a part 2.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for giving people the platform, because I know there's a lot of people out there that probably are scared to do this, but guys, this is a great community. Like Daniel and Josh, they all love to talk to us. They're not going to make fun of you at all. Just tell your story, get it off your chest.
Oh, trust me. I love hearing all the stories, but if I think you're trying to bamboozle me or bamboozle Josh or somebody, I'll call you out on it for real.
Oh yeah.
But again, if it's in that realm of probability, I'm going to take you for what your word is.
Right.
Now, if you come up here and say, well, I was out truffle hunting and I saw this Bigfoot riding by on a unicorn and had an alien riding, behind me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, bro.
But this right here wouldn't be believable.
Exactly. Well, I don't know, man. All right, guys. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. Hang out in the lobby, and I'll get right back to you. All right, everybody. That's our show for tonight. I just want to say again, thank you so much to Wyatt for coming on the show. I appreciate your time, appreciate your stories, your encounters, your experiences. Everybody, he said it best. This is a safe place for you guys to come. Tell your encounters, tell your stories. Again, some of these are pretty, traumatic, experiences for some people. And sometimes they've held on to these stories, these experiences, these encounters for decades. I'm not here to judge anybody. I've had my own encounters. I've had my own sighting. I welcome you with open arms to my channel. And just let you know that if you want to email me all show long, my email has been scrolling across the bottom, the Cryptid Podcast 72 at gmail.com. You just got something you want to get off your chest, go ahead and email me. And if you'd like me to talk about it, I'll talk about it. If you want me to keep it to myself, I'll keep it to myself. And if you want to come on the show, just let me know. Again, thank you so much for spending your time with me on a Friday night. Everyone be safe out there. As my buddy Josh always says, stay prayed up. And as I always like to say, remember, a legend always begins with a sighting. You guys have a nice night. Until next time, my friends.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?